Hello. Well, better late than never. This is the third attempt at doing this video of Heavy Rain. Um, Thanks to, well, stuff last week and also just general technical issues yesterday. This is now the third attempt at doing it. So what I thought I'd do is I thought I would pre-record it and therefore take any of the pain and misery out of sort of hassle messing around with the settings while I'm trying to live stream at the same time. I so the reason why we're doing Heavy Rain is that one of the main games that influenced some of the creative and technical choices in Plants, Apes, Frontier came off the back of the studio director Martin Alltime's um, interest in this game, and particularly how his partner seemed to enjoy the game, got involved in the story, but one of the things she found quite difficult was the whole the control interface. Right, as someone who isn't a gamer, she wasn't particularly keen to then take control of that story and have a hand in sort of changing it. She would sort of talk along with Martin and help him make his decisions, but she wasn't sort of part of the. She wasn't actively making those choices, and that was one of the key things that Martin was quite keen um, to explore, and obviously he um, he came up with the idea of just reducing the decision making process down to a set of binary decisions, and also the removal of the navigation of the characters. Obviously, that was a particularly brave decision because a lot of the feedback we've had since it came up was the lack of control over the player was a problem for some. But then, as you see, and as you'll see as we play our Heavy Rain, and as any of you will know from playing any sort of narrative adventure, you do spend quite a lot of time not actually pushing the story forward, but instead walking around, interacting with objects, and then only really find there's either one or two objects, or there's one or two conversational choices that you make, which will then actually impact on the player and on the relationships that player has. And yeah, so I mean, those were some of the key things that we looked at, and regardless of whether you feel it was successful or unsuccessful, nobody ever done it before, and it was something that we felt was worth exploring, and certainly the developers who worked on it felt it was worth pursuing that idea, and yeah, I mean, I think it stands up as a mechanic, and yeah, as I say, you'll see as we go through this, there are quite a lot of things that happen where you are just kind of padding out the game by sort of walking around and interacting with things. I mean, personally, when I play these sort of games, I check everything, which means I probably play the games for the longest possible sort of available sort of timeline, because I will sort of explore everything before I go to what I think is the thing that will move everything forward. But as I say, that's something we wanted to avoid in Planet of the Apes. So There we go. So we're gonna join the game. Well, thankfully, because of the sort of fairly disastrous attempt at a stream yesterday, I went through the tutorial again today. So we're gonna skip the tutorial and just go in at the sort of the key moment, which sort of shapes the story, and we'll just take it from there. If you don't know the game, you play this guy who's the protagonist. That's your wife and.
Can you watch Jason for a minute? I promise we won't be long.
Sure, no problem. We're not going anywhere, are we, Jason?
Come on, honey.
I'll try and tweak the sound up a little bit. There we go. May have been a little bit too quiet.
Jason! 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 Jason, you really shouldn't wander off like that, you know? There's an awful lot of people in here.
Please, Dad, can I have one? I would really love to have one. Please, Dad, come on.
Okay, let's go buy a balloon.
Great!
Hey, champ. What's your name?
Jason,
Which balloon would you like, Jason?
the red one.
Here you go. That'll be $2, sir.
Jason, wait for me. Wait for your dad, son. It's really crowded in here. Keep the change.
It is impossible to try on a pair of shoes with this crowd. Where's Jason?
He was here a second ago. I bought him a balloon. I turned around and he just disappeared.
Disappeared? What do you mean disappeared?
Stay here. I'll go get him. I'll be right back. Jason! 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 Jason!
Hey, man, watch it, dude.
Jason! Jason! Jason, God, you really had me scared. Jason! Hey man, watch where you're going. Jason! Hey, Jason! Jason! Shit!
Dad!
So that's the key incident that sort of sets off the whole story. One of the things about this game, one of the members of the Quantic Dream team was a guy called Steve Neabley, who was the cinematic director and editor of Planet of the Apes. And you'll see a lot of what some of the sort of creative and cinematic choices that were made in this transferred over into Planet of the Apes. Obviously he had pretty much full creative control and editorial control on Planet of the Apes, compared to this where obviously he was part of a larger team, and obviously David Cage was the one who really called the shots in terms of creative and cinematic control. But Steve's worked on a number of Quantic Dreams titles before he came to work for the Imaginati. And unlike this as well, we had to use quite a lot of outsourcing. It was quite a the Imaginati were quite a small studio in terms of in sort of sense of a studio developing a game, a sort of cinematic game of this style. They were about 100 people, but then obviously on top of that you've got the performance capture team on the stage, you've got the animation teams. We used a bunch of outsourcing teams. There you go, there's Steve, no, the character, there's Steve's name.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, Dad.
So yeah, the, 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 if you include all the many outsourcers and the
Seems like he doesn't really want to
internal
talk.
team at the Imaginarium, on top of obviously the, as I say, the 100 people at the third-party dev team. Again, coming back to the point about the player control, I mean, that scene in particular, I mean, I understand the sort of the narrative element of it, but the control aspect of it, again, it comes back to that whole point of, was that actually, what did that add to the process? I mean, you know, it's a choice, it's a design choice, but what's it done beyond adding, well, a minute of time between sort of your son getting in the car and you getting in the car, and starting the engine, driving off? You know, I mean, you could have had that conversational aspect and not had to do the whole
It's time for your snack. Are you hungry?
I guess, a little.
Let's see what we can find in the kitchen.
sorry, I'm terrible at multitasking. Yeah, so I mean, how much more is achieved by making you start the engine, that sort of thing? I mean, how much of that gives you a sense of what the, you know, what's going through the characters' minds, that sort of thing. I'm not saying it doesn't do a job. I'm just saying that does it do something that can be done through sort of a dialogue choice, through a sort of just a piece of conversation that, you know, didn't
Here, Sean.
require any
Here's your
interaction
snack.
from the
Thanks,
player.
Dad.
A couple of other things as well, as obvious, and I'm not overly familiar with this game. I'm familiar with Quantic Dream's work, but yeah, I don't know this game beyond sort of, you know, the bits that I have seen about it. Okay, I've got to make him do his homework in an hour's time.
Grease has Sean this weekend. Seems like he can't wait to get back to his mother.
What do you say we play together for a while?
I'd rather watch TV.
I've got time to kill. I have played this little bit before, so I'm gonna kind of prep some stuff. I mean, this seems like one of those similar choices to one of the things that we tried to do in Planet of the Apes, in that I think if you choose to drink the beer rather than the orange juice, I imagine that had some sort of a relationship impact. With your son, with Sean. Is it 6 o'clock yet? It's almost 6 o'clock. We're gonna leave him to. So watch the telly for a bit. I mean, obviously, you'll play this out in a little bit more of a pedestrian style if you don't know this scene. But then, you know, you could be looking at that board and just think, okay, I'm gonna try and plow through those things. So having to wait around again is one of these things that we were keen to remove that aspect. You know, unless it adds value to how the game plays, we felt it was worth kind of, you know, skipping those sorts of things. Right, now I'm going to tell him to do his homework.
Sean, do you want to do your homework now?
Please, Dad, let me watch TV a little while longer. We'll do it later, okay?
I think we should just get right to it. Then it's done and out of the way. Now, get your bag and get set up in the kitchen. I'll help you.
And the subject matter in this, as with a lot of David Cage's games, is kind of on the mature side. So, you know, just be warned if it's not the sort of thing that you're into, and then it's probably worth sort of giving this a skip. Again, it was one of that darker theme thing is one of the things that Martin was quite keen about. Obviously, wanting to leave it a little bit sort of less real world and less kind
Dad, I'm finished. Can I go watch TV?
less of that sort of quite sort of brutal realism, but obviously keeping within the tone of the much more sort of serious,
Pretty good. Well, looks like you're done.
Mature
Off you go.
style of the new Planet of the Apes films. So he's done his homework. Right, when's his dinner, Jim? Probably not for another 20 minutes, I don't think. Yeah, 7 o'clock.
you've got a cold coming on. I'm gonna see if I can find some medicine for you.
As I say, I've played this scene on the stream that wasn't yesterday. So I am a little bit more about it on this stream today. Well, obviously not quite about it enough.
Here, take this. It'll make you feel better.
Thanks, Dad.
Do you want me to get your dinner?
Oh, yeah, I'm really hungry.
Okay, I'll go see what I can
Right.
find. I'll call you when it's ready.
Now watch me smash it as Dad of the Year. Yes. Pizza from the fridge. Not just pizza from the fridge. Warm it up in the microwave. Don't even take the cellophane off. There you go. Well, I mean, that was fairly stupid.
You can come now, Sean. Your meal is ready.
I'm coming!
When the parents came home from church, all their children were gone. They searched and called for them. They cried and begged, but it was all to no avail. The children have never been seen again.
How are things at school? Is your teacher nice?
Everything's fine, Dad.
Come on, Sean. It's time for bed.
I'm not tired yet. Can I stay up a little longer?
Now, that's not very reasonable, is it? You have school tomorrow. You have to get some sleep.
All right, I'm going. Are you coming with me?
Go brush your teeth and put on your pajamas. I'll come up. Good night, Sean.
My teddy! I haven't got my teddy, Dad!
You must have left it somewhere in the house. Do you have any idea where it could be?
No, Dad. Please, I can't sleep without him.
All right, I'll have a look around and see if I can find it, okay?
Again, one of the things about having a fixed position sort of camera and having scenes play out without this sort of manual movement, it means things like this don't happen, where the camera's everywhere, and you kind of have to keep
Thanks,
sort of
Dad.
switching sort of which way that you're moving to kind of get the character
Good
to
night, Sean.
go in the right
Right.
direction. The scenes are set up for you.
Dad,
Yeah?
why do you look so sad?
I think I just need some time to get back to the way things were.
You know, Dad, what happened to Jason wasn't your fault.
Good night, Sean.
again, go back to the original comment earlier. These sort of games do deal with sort of fairly adult themes, and this scene in particular deals with some particularly sort of mature content, both in terms of language and subject matter. Just a warning.
Lauren Winter. Ring any bells?
Nope, can't say it does. Oh, that Lauren Winter. 3rd floor, last door on the left, at the end of the corridor.
Lauren Winter?
Sorry, I only see clients by appointment.
Wait.
It's $50. I don't kiss and I don't do any weird shit.
Fine by me.
Put your money on the table. You got exactly 10 minutes. When the alarm rings, it's over, okay? You should take your clothes off. We ain't got all day.
Actually, I'm not a customer.
Shit, a cop. I should've known. What do you want, a freebie? Is that it?
My name is Scott Shelby. I'm a private detective. The families of the victims of the origami killer asked me to investigate the murders. I came here just to ask you some questions about Johnny.
I already told the police all I know and have nothing to add. Leave me alone.
I understand, Lauren. I know what you're going through.
Oh yeah? You know what it feels like to find your own son's body on a wasteland? I'm sorry, I don't believe you have the slightest idea what I'm going through, Mr. Shelby.
There'll be other victims if we don't stop the killer. You have got to help me, Lauren. You may know something that can aid the investigation.
Help you? There's nothing you can do. My son's dead, do you hear me? He's dead!
If we don't find the killer, there'll be other mothers who find their son's body on a deserted wasteland. But you're right. Why should you care? It's not your problem anymore, right?
What do you want to know?
Tell me about Johnny. What kind of kid was he?
Johnny was really a good boy. Sometimes he fought with other kids who called me a, in his own way, I think he understood what was going on.
How did your son disappear?
He used to go play with the neighborhood kids after school. It was pouring down something awful that day. I'll never forget it. All his friends came home around 5. All except him. You want one?
No thanks, I quit.
That's brave.
Tell me about Johnny's father.
A loser without a job who liked to beat me after a few drinks. He left the day Johnny disappeared. I ain't seen him since. Coward. Good thing he left.
When did you sound the alarm?
About 8 o'clock. I began to get worried. I went all around the neighborhood. I went to the wasteland where they like to play. I went to see his friends. I called the cops about 10 o'clock. Time's up, Mr. Shelby. I hope you got what you wanted. Now get out of here.
Well, if you remember anything, the smallest detail, give me a call.
Lauren! Lauren, open up, baby. It's me.
Troy, what are you doing here? I already told you I don't want to see you anymore.
Sorry, Dal, but I really wanted to see ya. What do you want, asshole?
Lauren, is everything all right?
She's just swell. Now beat it, loser! You again? If you're looking for trouble, you found it. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. Oh!
Troy, stop or I call the cops! Troy, I will call the cops! I'll see you again, asshole.
Are you all right?
Better than him, I guess. Who is he?
An ex-client who thinks he owns me. He was getting violent, and I told him I didn't want to see him anymore.
You should be careful. He'll probably be back. Sorry about the mess.
Mr. Shelby,
Yeah.
thanks.
Oh.
and these are fixed points in time. So I mean, you look at these scenes, and it's like you've got all the action sequence, and it's great. It works really well. But again, it's extended the narrative beyond sort of, we're just sort of doing sort of those sort of gameplay elements that you're involved in, those quick time events, versus again just moving on to the next scene, which was what we did with Planet of the Apes. Again, walking around, we're looking for the right person to talk to.
The zone is sectioned off, sir. Please step back.
Agent Norman Jaden, FBI.
You got a badge or something, Mr. Jaden?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And again,
Check. You can pass.
that.
I'm looking for Lieutenant Blake. Is he around?
I saw him arrive earlier. He's here somewhere.
I mean, these are all choices
Thanks.
that could have been done, sort of, and stayed cinematic, but could have been done without sort of using that particular sort of mechanic of having to sort of like do certain do the certain sort of acts, like holding out your badge and asking about Blake. Neither of those were a sort of neither of those were essential to moving the story forward. They were just there as mechanics, which you then have to kind of push to sort of like go to the next stage. So yeah, again, comes back to what you want to get out of the sort of the mix of gameplay and the sort of mechanic of kind of just pushing the story on to the next bit.
Video memo recording, Agent 47023, Norman Jaden, Tuesday, October 4th, 2011. Time is 8:14 a.m. Unrelated to the investigation. I'm looking for Lieutenant Carter Blake. Thanks. Hey, you there! What are you doing? Lieutenant Blake? I'm Agent Norman Jaden from the FBI. I went by your office this morning, they told me you'd be here.
Now, if you're looking for rain, dead bodies, and highways, you come to the right place. Mike, will you tell that asshole with the bulldozer to stop for 5 minutes? I can't hear myself think here.
Right away, Lieutenant.
Well, are you coming, Jaden?
So, what happened?
Some guy taking his dog for a piss found a body about 6 o'clock this morning. We don't know much more right now. Based on what we've seen, looks like the work of the origami killer. Any news on the coroner?
He's on his way, Lieutenant.
We've been waiting for an hour, for fuck's sake.
Do we know the cause of death?
There are no marks on the body. Chances are he was drowned, like the others.
Has the body been identified?
No, not yet. We should know more later today.
There are a lot of people on the crime scene. Aren't you afraid your men might destroy some clues?
You don't find proof sitting behind a desk. We're not in the habit of trampling things into the ground, even if we're not in the FBI.
No, of course not. That's not what I meant.
Tony, I don't want to see a single shit-stirring journalist within a mile of here. You got it?
Yes, Lieutenant.
Has the time of death been established?
Based on the rigor mortis, must be less than 6 hours ago. We should know more once the coroner has had a look. Jaded!
Yeah, I'm coming. Do you have any leads?
My men are going over the scene with a fine-tooth comb. If the killer left anything behind, we'll find it. Listen, I'm a little busy here. Why don't we discuss all this a little later, back at the office?
Oh, no problem. I understand. Do you mind if I have a look around?
Be my guest. Hey, Jaden, you come and see me if you find anything, okay? We're on the same team now.
Harry Campbell. Sample of no interest. Comes from one of the policemen present on the wasteland. Some orchid pollen. The concentration of pollen in the air is quickly decreasing because of the rain, but it gets higher in the direction of the body.
I mean to take it off then.
Harry, comment, sample of no interest. Comes from one of the policemen present on the wasteland. Harry, comment, sample of no interest. Comes from one of the policemen present on the wasteland. Dead cat. The FBI doesn't keep files on dead cats. Not yet. Harry, comment. Traces of blood on the railroad track. The blood report indicates an advanced and long-lasting state of exhaustion. Footprints continue just after the pollen trail. There's a good chance that they're the killers. Harry, comment. The pollen particles disappear in the tall grass. It's probably the end of the trail.
I'm heading back to the office. You staying?
Yeah, I'm gonna have another look around if you don't mind.
Take all the time you want.
Harry, comment. The victim is lying on his back. No visible signs of violence. An orchid was placed on the victim's chest. A small origami figure in the right hand. Fingers were probably closed after the time of death. Superficial wound on the right thigh. Blood analysis suggests it could be post-mortem. Probably a scratch that occurred when the body was being moved. Small wound on the right thigh. And the blood is the same as on the tracks. His face is covered with mud, like the other victims. The victim is Jeremy Bowles, declared missing 5 days ago. See reference file. Mary comment. There are traces of blood on the fence behind the railroad line. It comes from the victim. The killer came this way with the body and probably grazed it on his way through the fence. there's a good chance that they're the killers. Very common. Tire tracks on the side of the road behind the railroad line. It may be the killer's car.
Think I've seen all there is to see.
A bat. A fox. A crab. A shadow. A threatening shadow.
I have the results of your MRI scans. Everything seems to be normal. There is no physical damage from the accident. However, I am worried about your psychological condition. I know it's not easy, but you've got to start over, Ethan. You're not responsible for what happened.
It's my fault Jason is dead. He'd still be alive if I'd been looking out for him.
It was an accident. Accidents happen every day. You can't blame yourself forever for your son's death. How is Sean?
He's a very solitary kid, you know, very focused within himself. He's really close to his mother. With me, he's more distant.
And what about you, Ethan? What do you feel?
I no longer want to live. I have no reason to continue.
Not even for your son, Sean.
I couldn't save Jason. Sean doesn't need a father like me.
Is there something else you wanted to tell me, Ethan?
I sometimes have these blackouts. Times when I don't know what I'm doing. I recover consciousness sometime later, but I'm someplace else. And I have no idea how I got there. Do you think this could be related to the accident?
You suffered a massive concussion and were in a coma for 6 months. We really don't know what effect a shock like that can have on the brain. That's the end of this session. We'll continue this conversation next week. You were lucky, Ethan. It's very rare to survive such a traumatic accident.
I don't exactly feel lucky, Doctor.
Right, I think I'm going to leave it there. Obviously, there's sort of quite sort of substantial differences, but a lot of the sort of cinematic style is quite similar to what Steve did on Plants of the Apes, but you know the mechanics add a completely different element to it. Certainly the stuff with the just then with the Rorschach tests was quite an interesting thing, and the sort of the scanner thing that the FBI guy uses, they work well as sort of gameplay mechanics versus things like holding out your badge, which kind of feel a little bit like they're there for the sake of being there rather than actually adding anything of sort of substance to the way that the game plays out. So yeah, you can see why sort of some of that stuff, and certainly with the quick time events with the slipping down the hill, I struggled with that, and you know I've played games for years, so you can imagine how for someone who's not a gamer, how things like that can just seem a little bit like, well, you know, I just want to find out more about the story. I'm not particularly interested in struggling down a hill or kind of pressing 2 and 3 buttons at the same time to make sure that I can climb this thing. And the amount of times I took the glasses off accidentally was kind of frustrating for me. And that's just because I am quite clumsy when it comes to controlling games, but nevertheless, you know, I am someone who's played games for years. So you can see how things like that might just seem like a real barrier to someone. You know, this is a good story, this is a compelling story. But if the control mechanic is taking you out of that thing and making you feel frustrated, you can see why things like the approach that we took with Planet of the Apes might seem more inclusive to someone who's not that into sort of the whole game side of things. You know, and especially with something like with the PlayStation 4 implementation where we used a mobile control using PlayLink, so you could touch one or two choices, and again with the mixer implementation where you can touch one or two choices, you can see how that might be, you know, it might make it a lot more interesting, a lot more accessible than having to sit there with a controller and work out how to press the controls. So yeah, that's why we did some of the things we did. And it'll please some people, it won't please other people, but it's another way of doing these things. And yeah, that's it for this stream. I hope you find some of it useful. I'll be back on Friday. Hopefully, now I seem to have browbeaten my computer into solving all the technical issues. Hopefully, we'll be able to get started on time and kind of quickly rattle through things. What I might do on Friday is we'll look at another one of the games that's been an influence, which is Supermassive's Until Dawn. Again, there's technical and storytelling approaches which we looked at, the development team looked at when it came to sort of what they wanted to do with Planet of the Apes, and we'll look at that on Friday. And I hope to see you then. Okay, cheerio.